Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to HK Cheating Stories. We appreciate each and every one of you joining us. Where in the world are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's get the story started. My name is Ethan Carter, and for 10 years, I believed I had the perfect marriage. I built a life with my wife, Lisa, trust, love, and loyalty at its core. Or so I thought. But secrets have a way of surfacing, don't they? It started with small things. The late nights, the distant stares, the scent of cigarettes on a woman who never smoked. I ignored the signs, convinced myself they meant nothing, until the truth hit me like a freight train. Lisa wasn't just lying to me. She was planning a new life without me. And that's when I decided I wouldn't be the fool she thought I was. I sat on the couch, gripping my coffee mug so tightly I thought it might crack. My phone screen glowed in the dimly lit living room, displaying the latest update from the private investigator. Lisa boarded the flight. Destination, Honolulu. She's not alone. I exhaled slowly, my breath shaky, my pulse hammering in my ears. A decade of marriage, a home built together, and countless nights spent trusting her. All of it shattered in an instant. She had told me she was going to a real estate convention in Las Vegas. Lies. Instead, she was off to paradise with another man. And I had been blind. My fingers tightened around the phone as I scrolled through the photos the investigator had sent me. There she was, standing at the gate, smiling, laughing. And next to her, Ryan Monroe. I recognized him from Lisa's office Christmas party. Her boss. A man I had shaken hands with, toasted drinks with. My stomach twisted. Had it always been him? I leaned back into the couch, staring at the ceiling as memories flooded in. I met Lisa 13 years ago in college. She was ambitious, sharp-witted, the kind of woman who could command a room with just her presence. I was drawn to her instantly. We were both business majors, both hungry for success. She had dreams of dominating the real estate market. I had my sights set on running my father's auto parts company. We were a perfect match, or so I thought. After graduation, we got married. Life was good. We bought a beautiful home, drove brand new cars, and took weekend trips whenever we could. While Lisa climbed the ranks in real estate, I worked my way up at my family's company, eventually taking over the financial side of the business. We never had kids. At first, Lisa told me she wanted to focus on her career. Then, she confided in me about her fertility issues, claiming she had undergone tubal ligation. I had believed her without question, even when she refused to consider adoption. Looking back now, I felt like a fool. The signs had been there for months. Lisa had started coming home late. At first, she excused it as client meetings running long. Then it became happy hours with the girls from work. Eventually, she stopped offering excuses altogether. The first time I confronted her, she laughed. Laughed. "Oh, Ethan, don't be ridiculous. I was out having a few drinks. Do I need your permission now?" The words stung, but what really unsettled me was the look in her eyes, dismissive, almost amused. Like I was a child throwing a tantrum over nothing. That night, I smelled cigarettes on her clothes. Lisa never smoked. Neither did her friends. I should have pressed harder. Should have followed my instincts. But I let it go. Things only got worse. Our intimacy faded, dwindling from multiple times a week to once in a blue moon. She barely touched me anymore. The woman who used to wake me up with kisses now barely kissed me goodnight. And when she did, it felt forced, obligatory. Then came the lies. Lisa would tell me she was in the office late. But when I called, no one answered. One evening, when she claimed to be at a client's house, I drove past her office on a whim. Her car was parked out front. She wasn't at work. She wasn't showing houses. She was with someone. I just didn't know who. I had swallowed my suspicions, afraid to confront her directly. Lisa had a temper, and I knew how she'd react if I accused her without proof. So I waited and watched. Then, my friend Chris called. "Ethan, we need to talk." In person. That night, over beers, he told me what I had been dreading. "I saw Lisa today. She wasn't working. She was with some guy, holding hands, kissing him." I tried to deny it, but when he showed me the photo, my world cracked in two. Lisa, my wife, in another man's arms. I barely remember what I said after that. Numb, I asked Chris for his private investigator's contact information. If Lisa was lying to me, I needed proof. Real proof. So I hired Mark. Now, here I was, sitting alone in my darkened living room, watching my wife embark on a tropical getaway with the man she had chosen over me. The coffee in my cup had gone cold. My hands trembled, but it wasn't from shock anymore. It was from something darker. I had spent years loving her, years believing we were partners in life. And all along, she had been playing me for a fool. Lisa thought she had gotten away with it. She had no idea what was coming. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, Lisa, laughing, her hand in Ryan's, her body leaning into his like she used to lean into me. My mind replayed the images from the investigator's report, looping them like a broken film reel. Every detail burned into my brain. The way she looked at him, the way she smiled, the way she had probably smiled at me once. I thought I would wake up numb, but I didn't. I woke up angry. The kind of anger that settles in your bones, quiet and heavy, waiting for a moment to be unleashed. But I wasn't going to explode. No, that would be too easy. Lisa had spent months, maybe years, lying to me. I could play the long game too. I spent the morning staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, trying to recognize the man staring back. I wasn't some naive idiot. I was smart, methodical. I built my life on logic, on numbers. Yet somehow, I had let Lisa blindside me. But as I stood there, gripping the edge of the sink, memories started clicking into place. It wasn't just the late nights or the distant attitude. There were signs, small ones, subtle, easy to brush off at the time. But now, looking back, they were glaring. Lisa used to call me every day during lunch, just to check in, just to talk. But sometime in the last year, those calls stopped. When I mentioned it, she laughed it off. Ethan, I barely have time to breathe during work. You expect me to call you just to talk? I had let it go, assuming she was just busy. Then there was the intimacy, or the lack of it. We used to be inseparable in bed. If we weren't wrapped around each other at night, something felt wrong. But then, the frequency started dwindling. First, it was a couple of times a week. Then, a couple of times a month. Then, barely at all. And when we did, something felt different. Like she was somewhere else. Detached. I should have asked more questions. I should have demanded answers. Instead, I convinced myself it was just stress. God, I was an idiot. Then there were the nights she came home late. At first, she was apologetic. Sorry, babe, client meeting ran over. Sorry, babe, the girls wanted to grab drinks after work. Then, the excuses started feeling off. One night, she came home at nearly midnight, the smell of cigarettes clinging to her hair. Lisa didn't smoke. Neither did her friends. Where were you? I asked, keeping my voice calm. She blinked at me, feigning confusion. Acting. Out with the girls. We had a few drinks. At a club? I pressed. Yeah, why? Because you smell like you rolled around in an ashtray. Her eyes flickered with something. Annoyance, maybe a brief moment of panic, but she recovered quickly. Ugh. Yeah, the club was kind of smoky. Sorry about that. She forced a smile. Too forced. I didn't push. Maybe I should have. The next big red flag came a few months ago. I was cleaning out the closet when I stumbled across a bottle of birth control pills in her bag. My stomach dropped. Lisa had told me, years ago, that she had undergone tubal ligation. She couldn't get pregnant. So why was she still taking birth control? I stared at the bottle for a long time, turning it over in my hands, my heart pounding. I wanted to believe there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe it was for hormone regulation. Maybe she had forgotten to tell me something. But deep down, I knew better. I didn't say anything. I just put the bottle back exactly where I found it and walked away. Then, there was Chris, my best friend, the one person who knew me better than I knew myself. The night he called, I could hear something in his voice. Urgency, hesitation. Ethan, I need to see you. Tonight. We met at the bar we always went to. He wouldn't say anything over the phone, but I knew something was wrong. And then, he dropped the bombshell. I saw Lisa today. Okay. I tried to play it off, but the way he looked at me made my stomach twist. She wasn't at work. She was with someone. A guy. Holding hands. Kissing him. I felt my entire world shift. No. It was automatic. A knee-jerk reaction. Denial. Chris didn't argue. He just pulled out his phone and handed it to me. And there she was. Lisa. My wife. The woman I had loved for over a decade. Her hand clasped in another man's. Her lips pressed against his. I swallowed, feeling something inside me crack. Are you sure? My voice barely sounded like my own. Chris sighed. Look at the picture, Ethan. You already know the answer. I did. I knew. But knowing and accepting are two different things. I barely remember leaving the bar that night. I barely remember driving home, but I remember standing in our bedroom, watching Lisa sleep peacefully beside me, completely unaware that her world was about to come crashing down. I could have woken her up. I could have confronted her right then and there. But I didn't, because that wasn't the plan. No, I was going to be patient. I was going to be smart. Lisa had played me for a fool. Now, it was my turn to play the game. The morning after Chris showed me the photo, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. No more doubts. No more excuses. Lisa was cheating, and she thought I'd never find out. I lay in bed for a long time, staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me, blissfully unaware. Her breathing was steady, peaceful, like she hadn't just burned our entire marriage to the ground. I turned my head to look at her, memorizing every detail, the curve of her lips, the way her hair spread across the pillow. This was the woman I had given my life to, the woman I thought I'd grow old with. I didn't recognize her anymore. Lisa stirred, stretching before blinking up at me. "Morning, babe," she mumbled, her voice thick with sleep. She reached for me, pressing a lazy kiss against my shoulder. "Why are you up so early?" I forced a smile. "Just thinking." "About what?" she asked, her fingers tracing absent patterns on my chest. I caught her hand and kissed it. "Us." Lisa smiled, but something flickered in her eyes. Discomfort? Guilt? For a second, I thought she might confess. Instead, she pulled away, sitting up and stretching. "I love you, Ethan," she said, planting a quick kiss on my forehead before sliding out of bed. I watched her disappear into the bathroom. Liar. By noon, I had made my decision. I needed proof, real proof. Not just a blurry photo from Chris or a gut feeling. I needed undeniable, concrete evidence. So I called Mark. Mark was a private investigator Chris had used during his divorce. He was efficient, discreet, and, most importantly, relentless. We met at his office, a cluttered space filled with stacks of case files and a single flickering lamp. The air smelled like old coffee and cigarette smoke. "Ethan Carter," he greeted, shaking my hand. "That's me." He gestured for me to sit, then leaned forward, lacing his fingers together. "Tell me everything." So I did. I told him about the late nights, the excuses, the shift in our marriage. I told him about the picture Chris had taken, about Lisa's upcoming work trip to Vegas. Mark listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally, his sharp eyes studying me like I was a puzzle he was piecing together. When I finished, he exhaled and leaned back in his chair. "Vegas, huh?" he mused, rubbing his chin. "You think she's meeting him there?" "I don't think," I said, my jaw tightening. "I know." Mark smirked. "Then let's catch her." That night, I planted the voice-activated recorder under the passenger seat of Lisa's car. It was small, discreet, and sensitive enough to pick up every whisper, every murmur. If she spoke to Ryan in the car, even for a second, I'd have it on tape. Lisa had always prided herself on being careful. She deleted texts, took private calls when she thought I wasn't around. But she'd slip up. They always do. I kissed her goodbye the next morning, just like always. "Have a safe flight," I said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I'll miss you." Lisa smiled, wrapping her arms around my neck. "I'll call you every night," she promised. She kissed me one last time before walking out the door. I watched her drive away, my heart hammering. As soon as she was gone, I grabbed my keys and followed. Lisa parked at the airport, just like I expected. I waited until she was inside before I retrieved the recorder. By the time I got home, my hands were shaking. I sat at my desk, took a deep breath, and hit play. At first, it was just static, road noise, the hum of the radio. Then, her voice. "Hey, baby." A man's voice answered, deep and smug. "Hello, gorgeous." My stomach clenched. Lisa giggled. "Last week was amazing," Ryan murmured. "Glad you enjoyed it," Lisa teased. I gripped the desk so hard my knuckles turned white. "So, plans for next week?" Ryan asked. "Already arranged," Lisa said smoothly. "Did you tell your husband?" "Not yet," she admitted. "But I've got it handled. He suspects nothing." I clenched my jaw. "Hope you're right." Lisa laughed. "Ethan will believe anything I tell him." The audio cut out, leaving nothing but dead air. I sat there, frozen, the weight of her words sinking in. "Ethan will believe anything I tell him." A dull ringing filled my ears. I hit rewind, played it again, and again. Each time, it drove deeper into my skull. She thinks I'm a fool. Lisa had lied to me for months, maybe longer. She had looked me in the eyes, kissed me, held me, while planning secret rendezvous with another man. My breath came out ragged, my hands trembling. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. Lisa had played her game well, but she had underestimated me, and she was about to learn exactly what that mistake would cost her. I sat in my office, gripping the arms of my chair, my mind racing. I had the proof. Undeniable, irrefutable proof. Lisa wasn't just cheating, she was mocking me, laughing behind my back, believing, down to her core, that I was a clueless idiot who would never suspect a thing. Ethan will believe anything I tell him. Her words echoed in my head, over and over, like a taunt. I wasn't just going to let this slide. I needed to see the full extent of her betrayal, and I knew exactly where to look. Lisa always kept a spare key to her office in her jewelry box. I walked into our bedroom, and opened the box. My hands were steady as I sifted through her necklaces and earrings until I found what I was looking for. A small silver key with the real estate company's logo. I pocketed it and grabbed a pair of latex gloves from the garage. I wasn't leaving fingerprints. It was nearly midnight when I arrived at Lisa's office. The parking lot was mostly empty, save for a few cars belonging to the cleaning crew. I slipped in through the back entrance, moving quickly and quietly down the dimly lit hallway. Lisa's office was the last one on the right. I took one last deep breath, then slid the key into the lock. The door clicked open. I stepped inside, shutting it softly behind me. The room smelled like her perfume, floral, expensive, familiar. It made my stomach turn. I went straight for her desk. Lisa was meticulous when it came to organization, but I knew she had secrets. And secrets always leave a trail. I pulled open the bottom drawer and found exactly what I was looking for. Bank statements. Lisa and I had agreed years ago to keep separate personal accounts, contributing only a portion of our salaries to our joint expenses. I had always assumed she was putting the rest into savings. I was wrong. Her personal account had over $250,000. My pulse quickened as I flipped through the documents. Luxury hotel stays, high-end clothing stores, spa treatments. And then, one receipt made my breath catch. A down payment on an apartment. My hands clenched around the paper. She had bought an apartment. Not just any apartment, one in an expensive part of the city. My chest tightened. This wasn't just an affair. Lisa was planning a new life. Without me. I copied everything. Bank statements, receipts, even printed out some of her emails. That's when I found his name. Ryan Monroe. I had suspected, but now I had confirmation. Scrolling through their email exchanges, my stomach churned. They had been seeing each other for almost a year. In one email, Lisa had even confessed to an abortion. Did you handle that little issue? Ryan had asked. Yes, Lisa had responded. I took care of it. Can't risk Ethan finding out. My vision blurred with fury. I had spent years believing Lisa when she told me she couldn't have children. Now I knew the truth. She never wanted them. At least, not with me. She had spent the last decade lying to me about everything. And now, she had a secret apartment to run to whenever she wanted to be with him. I needed to see it for myself. The address was on the paperwork. I drove across town, parking a block away from the apartment complex. It was a sleek, modern building, the kind with floor-to-ceiling windows and a private gym. Lisa had never mentioned wanting a place like this, because it was never meant for us. I pulled the spare keys from my pocket, my heartbeat slow and steady as I walked toward the entrance. The lobby was empty. The night concierge barely glanced up from his phone as I stepped into the elevator. Apartment 3B. I slipped on my latex gloves, then slid the key into the lock. It turned effortlessly. Lisa had no idea that, at this moment, her husband was stepping into her secret world. The lights flicked on with a soft hum, revealing a space that was fully furnished. This wasn't some empty investment property. This was a home. I stepped further inside, my eyes scanning every detail. Modern decor. A leather couch. A massive flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. There were no pictures of me. No trace of our life together. But there were traces of him. A men's jacket draped over a chair. A pair of men's sneakers by the door. I walked into the bedroom, my chest tightening. The bed was neatly made, the sheets crisp and untouched. But I knew better. I moved to the closet. Women's clothes on one side. Men's clothes on the other. I reached out, pulling open a drawer in the nightstand. There it was. A card from Ryan. Thanks for the watch. Can't wait for our housewarming. I stared at the words, my grip tightening until the paper crumpled in my hand. This was their place. Not a fling. A second life. A future she had been planning, one where I was nothing more than an obstacle to be discarded. I took out my phone and started snapping photos. Every single piece of evidence. The receipts, the men's clothing, the toothbrushes in the bathroom, his and hers. Then, I walked back to the kitchen and opened the cabinets. They were half-stocked, not fully lived in, but enough to show this wasn't just some rental property. Lisa had been careful, but not careful enough. I left everything exactly as I found it. Turned off the lights. Locked the door. Then, I walked away, knowing that in just a few days, Lisa would return to this place, unaware that I had already been here. She thought she was in control. She thought she was getting away with it. She had no idea what was coming. I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The evidence was overwhelming. Lisa hadn't just cheated. She had built an entire new life behind my back. Her secret bank account, her love nest, the men's clothes in the closet, the damn thank you card from Ryan. She thought she was untouchable, that I would never find out. I had all the proof I needed. But I wasn't done yet. There was one more person who deserved to know the truth. Ryan's wife. Finding her was easy. A quick online search led me to Emily Monroe. She was beautiful, dark hair, striking eyes. Classy. The kind of woman who looked like she had everything figured out. Except she didn't. Because, like me, she had no idea that her spouse was a liar and a fraud. I hesitated before dialing her number. This wasn't just about exposing Lisa and Ryan anymore. This was about revenge. When she picked up, her voice was polite, but guarded. Hello, Emily? My name is Ethan Carter. I need to talk to you about your husband. A pause. Then, suspicion crept into her tone. I'm sorry, who did you say you were? Ethan Carter. Lisa Carter's husband. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, finally, Ryan's boss Lisa? Yeah, I said, my jaw tightening. She's not just his boss, Emily. They've been having an affair. Silence. For a moment, I thought she had hung up. Then I heard a sharp inhale, like she was trying to keep her emotions in check. Do you have proof? She finally asked, her voice quieter now. More than enough, I assured her. Photos, emails, even recordings. Another silence. Then, she let out a shaky breath. Where can we meet? We met later that afternoon in a quiet parking lot outside a coffee shop. I parked next to her car and stepped out. She was already waiting, leaning against her sleek Toyota Corolla, arms crossed over her chest. She looked composed, but her eyes told a different story. She studied me for a moment before speaking. Show me. I didn't hesitate. I pulled out my phone and flipped through the pictures, the emails, the bank statements, the text messages. She stared at them, her expression unreadable. Then I played the audio recording. Lisa's voice filled the air, dripping with confidence, with arrogance. Ethan will believe anything I tell him. Not yet, but I've got it handled. He's clueless. I glanced at Emily. Her hands were shaking. Then she did something I wasn't expecting. She laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was sharp, bitter, almost hollow. That son of a bitch, she whispered. She shook her head, wiping away a single tear before turning back to me. So, she said, her voice steady again. What's the plan? I blinked. The plan. She smirked, crossing her arms. You didn't tell me all of this just for sympathy. You want to do something about it. She wasn't wrong. And looking at her now, I realized something. We were in the same boat. We had both been betrayed, humiliated, lied to, and we were both angry. A slow grin spread across my face. Yeah, I said. I do have a plan. An hour later, we were at Lisa and Ryan's apartment. Emily stood beside me as I unlocked the door and stepped inside. She let out a low whistle. Wow, she really went all out, huh? Yeah, I muttered. They thought they were being careful. Thought they'd never get caught. Emily walked into the bedroom, running her fingers over Ryan's clothes in the closet. She pulled out one of his expensive suits and scoffed. He told me we couldn't afford to remodel the kitchen this year, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I chuckled. Guess he had other priorities. She turned to me, her expression shifting from anger to something more calculating. What if, she started, we helped them move in together? I frowned. What do you mean? She grinned. A wicked, vengeful grin. We take all their crap and bring it here. Their clothes, their stuff, everything. Dump it right in this apartment. I stared at her. Then I started laughing. Because it was brilliant. I like the way you think, Emily. That night, we got to work. While Lisa was still on her work trip with Ryan, Emily and I packed up their belongings and hauled them over to the apartment. Clothes, toiletries, shoes. I even grabbed Lisa's wedding dress from the back of our closet and threw it right onto the bed. Emily wasn't gentle with Ryan's stuff, either. Oops, she muttered, dropping one of his expensive colognes onto the tile floor, where it shattered. Oh no, I said dryly. We high-fived. By the time we were done, the apartment looked like a chaotic dumping ground of their sins. It was perfect. Emily wiped her hands on her jeans, grinning at me. That felt good, she admitted. I nodded. Yeah, it did. Then, without thinking, I asked, "You hungry?" She blinked. Starving. Come on, I said, heading toward the door. I know a place that makes a killer burger. She followed me out, and for the first time in days, I felt lighter. Lisa and Ryan had thought they were untouchable. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. I sat across from Emily in a dimly lit booth at a local bar, the scent of grilled burgers and fried onions filling the air. It was the same place I had met Chris the night he shattered my world with a single photo. But tonight felt different. Lighter. We had just finished dumping Lisa and Ryan's belongings into their secret apartment, turning it into a shrine of their betrayal. The sheer poetic justice of it all left a satisfied smirk on my face. Emily sipped her beer, shaking her head. I can't believe how good that felt. I chuckled, taking a bite of my burger. Revenge has a way of doing that. She studied me for a moment, her sharp eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. What now, Ethan? That was the question, wasn't it? I had all the evidence I needed. The lies, the secret apartment, the audio recordings, everything. I could serve Lisa divorce papers the second she stepped off that plane, let her watch her world crumble the way she had crumbled mine. But for some reason, I wasn't in a rush. Maybe I just wanted her to sweat a little longer. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed on the table. Lisa. Emily's eyes flickered to the screen. You gonna answer? I let it ring twice before I picked up, keeping my voice neutral. Hello. Lisa's voice was slurred, thick with alcohol and excitement. Hey, baby, she purred. I fought the urge to hang up. What's up, Lisa? Guess what? I won the Best Sales Award, she announced, her words slightly slurred. I clenched my jaw. Liar. That's great, I said flatly. And they want me to stay in Vegas next week to work with their agents, she continued, spinning another lie without hesitation. I glanced at Emily, who rolled her eyes. We both knew Lisa wasn't in Vegas. She was on her way to Hawaii with Ryan. I forced enthusiasm into my voice. Wow, what about our anniversary? It's this Wednesday, remember? A pause. Then, her voice softened, fake regret dripping from every syllable. I know, babe, and I'm so sorry. But this is a huge opportunity. Maybe we can celebrate next weekend. I took a slow breath, keeping my fury locked behind a calm mask. Of course, your career is important. I wouldn't want you to miss a big opportunity. Lisa hesitated. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said smoothly. Just that our 10-year anniversary only happens once. But I know how much your job means to you. She sighed. I thought you'd be happy for me. I am, I lied. Go do what you need to do. I love you, Ethan. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. Good, I said. Me too. Then I hung up. Emily stared at me, her expression unreadable. Damn, she muttered. That was cold. She deserves worse. She didn't argue. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a business card, Mark's private number. The PI had been tracking Lisa and Ryan from the moment they left. I dialed. Mark picked up on the first ring. Chandler, just the guy I was about to call. What's the update? I asked, keeping my voice even. Your wife and her boyfriend boarded their flight from Las Vegas early this morning. Layover in LA for about 40 minutes, then off to Honolulu. They should be landing in about 5 hours. Emily tensed beside me. Got it, I said, my mind already racing. Thanks, Mark. I hung up and turned to Emily. They're on their way to Hawaii. She scoffed, shaking her head. Unbelievable. I nodded, rubbing my temple. They think they're getting away with it. Emily exhaled sharply. Not for long. But then, before either of us could say another word, my phone rang again. I frowned. Lisa's number. But something felt off. I answered. Lisa. The background noise was chaotic. Shouts, gasps, muffled screams. Then Lisa's voice, shaky, panicked. Ethan, she gasped. My heart stopped. Lisa? What's happening? The plane down. The call cut off. A dead silence stretched between me and Emily. For a moment, I just sat there, gripping the phone, my mind struggling to process. Then, Emily's voice, barely above a whisper. What the hell just happened? I tried calling Lisa back. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. A cold chill crawled up my spine. I shot out of the booth, nearly knocking over my beer. I needed information. Emily was already on her phone, dialing Ryan. She put the phone to her ear, listening. Then, slowly, she lowered it. Voicemail. I ran a quick online search, my fingers shaking. And then, there it was. A breaking news headline. American Airlines Flight 31 to Honolulu has crashed into the Pacific Ocean. No survivors confirmed yet. Emily clapped a hand over her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. I stared at the screen, my heart thudding in my chest. Lisa had just called me. From that plane. Emily swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the table. They're dead, aren't they? She whispered. I didn't answer, because in that moment, I realized something. I had spent weeks planning my revenge, gathering evidence, plotting my next move. But fate had beaten me to it. Lisa and Ryan had sealed their own fate long before I ever got the chance. And now, they were gone. I stood in my living room, phone still clutched in my hand, staring blankly at the news article on my screen. Lisa was gone. Ryan was gone. Just like that. For weeks, I had plotted, gathered evidence, prepared for war. I had envisioned her face when I laid everything out in front of her, watching her expression twist from shock to horror as her perfect little world crumbled. But I never expected this. Emily sat on the couch, her hands gripping her knees, eyes fixed on the muted TV screen as a news anchor droned on. Flight 31 crashed into the Pacific, search and rescue underway, no survivors confirmed. She had barely spoken since we saw the report. Neither had I. What was there to say? Did you love her? Emily's voice finally broke the silence. I glanced at her. Did I? I used to. Once. Before the lies. Before the deception. Before I found out I had been nothing more than a convenient placeholder in her life. I loved the person I thought she was, I admitted. Emily nodded slowly. Yeah, I know what you mean. She exhaled, rubbing her temples. I should be devastated, right? My husband just died. I should be crying, falling apart. But you're not. I finished for her. She looked up at me, something unspoken passing between us. No, she wasn't. And neither was I. Because the people we had married had already been dead to us long before this crash. The next few days were a blur. The airline officially confirmed there were no survivors. Lisa and Ryan's bodies had not been recovered. Some families held out hope, clinging to the possibility of a miracle. I didn't. Lisa was gone. Ryan was gone. That was the reality. The phone calls started pouring in. Family, friends, even Lisa's co-workers. They offered their condolences, their voices filled with pity and sympathy. I thanked them, accepted their words, but felt nothing. Then came the logistics. Lisa had life insurance through her company. A hefty payout. I filled out the paperwork, answered the necessary questions, signed where I needed to sign. In the end, $500,000 was deposited into my account. Emily received the same from Ryan's policy. Then there was Lisa's apartment, her little love nest. I stood in the middle of it one last time, taking in the space she had built for her secret life. It felt empty now, a hollow shell of what it once represented. I could have kept it, rented it out, sold it. Instead, I donated everything. Every single piece of furniture, every painting, every expensive decoration she had so carefully curated. Goodwill took it all. The apartment sold within a week. And just like that, Lisa's secret world was erased. I expected guilt. I expected something. But as I sat in my home, now rid of any trace of Lisa, I felt nothing but relief. She was gone. Her lies, her betrayals, the weight of everything, gone. For the first time in months, I breathed. Emily and I kept in touch. At first, it was just check-ins, texting, meeting for coffee, making sure the other was okay. But somewhere along the way, those check-ins became dinners. Dinners became late-night talks. Late-night talks turned into something else entirely. One evening, as we sat on my couch, she looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "Do you ever think about what's next?" "What do you mean?" I asked. She hesitated, then smiled softly. "For us." I stared at her. Us. I had never planned for this. Never thought about the possibility of something more. But as I looked into her eyes, I realized something. Lisa and Ryan had taken so much from us. But they hadn't taken everything. We were still here. And maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. Maybe it was just the beginning. 6 months had passed since Lisa and Ryan died. 6 months since the plane went down, since my life, our lives, changed forever. I had spent so long caught in a web of anger, betrayal, and revenge that I never expected to feel peace again. But here I was, sitting across from Emily at a Texas roadhouse, a half-eaten steak in front of me, a cold beer in my hand. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I was happy. Really, truly happy. She smiled at me, and my chest tightened in a way it never had before. Lisa had been my past. Emily, she was my future. I reached into my pocket, fingers closing around the small velvet box I had been carrying for weeks. I had rehearsed this moment over and over in my head, trying to find the right words, the right time. Maybe there was no perfect time. Maybe this was as perfect as it got. I took a deep breath, then stood. Emily blinked up at me. Ethan, what are you? Then I dropped to one knee. The restaurant around us faded. The clatter of dishes, the hum of conversation, it all disappeared. It was just her. I opened the box, revealing the simple, elegant diamond ring inside. Emily, I never expected any of this. I never expected to meet someone who understands me the way you do. I never expected to love again after everything we went through. But here we are, and I don't want to waste another second. Her breath hitched, her hands covering her mouth. Marry me. For a moment, she just stared at me, her eyes shining. Then, she laughed, a soft, disbelieving laugh, as she nodded furiously. Yes, yes, Ethan, of course. Applause erupted around us. I barely heard it. All I could hear was the sound of my heart pounding as I slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into my arms. She kissed me, not just a kiss, but a promise. A promise that this wasn't just some rebound, some desperate attempt to fill the void left behind by our cheating spouses. This was real. This was ours. Later that night, as we lay in bed, she traced lazy circles on my chest, her head resting against me. You know, she murmured, it's high time you made an honest woman out of me. I chuckled, running my fingers through her hair. That's what the ring is for. MMM. She lifted her head, looking at me with something mischievous in her eyes. And because you're going to be a father. Everything stopped. My breath caught in my throat. What? She bit her lip, but her smile was radiant. I found out a week ago. I wanted to wait for the right moment to tell you. My mind raced, struggling to process what she had just said. A father. I was going to be a father. I stared at her, my chest swelling with something I couldn't quite name. Joy. Hope. Love. Pure, unfiltered love. I cupped her face, pressing my forehead against hers. I love you more than anything, Emily. Her eyes shone with unshed tears. And I love you even more. We lay there in silence for a moment, just holding each other, letting the reality of our new life sink in. Then she sighed dramatically. Just one thing, though. I smirked. What's that? Please don't ask me to fly anywhere. I laughed. A deep, genuine laugh. Then I pulled her closer, whispering against her lips. Don't worry, my dear. We're staying right here. And for the first time in years, I wasn't running from the past. I was finally looking toward the future. Looking back, I see things more clearly now. I see the warning signs I ignored, the lies I chose to believe, and the blind trust one gave to someone who never truly valued it. But more importantly, I see the lessons. Life doesn't always go the way we planned. Sometimes, the people we love betray us. Sometimes, the foundation we build crumbles beneath us. And when that happens, we have two choices. Let it break us or let it make us stronger. I chose the latter. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that betrayal doesn't define us, how we rise after it does. I could have let Lisa's actions consume me, could have let bitterness dictate the rest of my life. But instead, I found new purpose, new love, and a future I never expected. For anyone who has been hurt, who has been betrayed, you are not alone. The pain won't last forever. Life moves forward, and if you allow it, something better is waiting on the other side. Trust carefully, love deeply, and never be afraid to walk away from something that no longer serves you. Because sometimes, the ending you never saw coming is exactly the new beginning you needed.